Hi there, my name is Rhinehart and I'm a Simply Music piano instructor, and today we're going to give you 5 tips to succeeding at the piano. Real quickly, I want to thank Brendan Burchard of the Charged Life and Experts Academy for encouraging me to put this video together and do my 5 tips, spread my message. So Brendan, if you're watching this or anybody from the team, thank you so much. Alright, before we get started, I would highly encourage you to go to ericreinhardtpiano.com/5tipspiano, where I have a free PDF so you can follow along with the information, as well as I've given you action steps to have this be not just an informational experience, but also a transformational experience, something that's going to you're going to be able to integrate into your daily life. So a lot of these are inspired by different influencers of mine, Brendan Burchard being one of them, especially since I've been going through his High Performance Habits book. So we're going to get right into it. So the first tip that I have is raising necessity. And what do I mean by this? So I think it's incredibly important that we get our piano practice somehow into our calendar. I comment in the PDF about how piano is kind of one of those things where it's a nice to have for most people. If you work a professional job that isn't related to music in any way, it's not really going to reap financial rewards for you. You might get a little bit of validation, but there isn't that sense of, if I do this, if I don't do this, I'm going to die. Right? So we need to raise the necessity of us improving in our piano practice. And so one thing that I've noticed, and I want to liken this to an experience of mine, is that when I'm working throughout the day and come lunchtime, it's really hard for me to choose what to eat for myself. I tend to be not very creative, and I tend not to prioritize my nutrition around lunchtime. But then when I'm in charge of cooking dinner for me and my girlfriend, all of a sudden I get these creative ideas, and I tend to be a little bit more motivated to cook this dinner. And so what I'm encouraging you guys to do is how can we liken this to piano? And so this is what Brendan calls externalizing the benefits. And so what I've noticed, and maybe I didn't even know that I was doing this at the time, I was living with my family a couple of years back, my parents and my grandmother, and both are lovers of music, and every time I would play, or every time in the evenings when I'd kind of give like mini concerts or something like that, they would just be so grateful, so appreciative, put a smile on their face. And so when I had them as a social support system, it really helped me externalize that I wasn't just doing the piano practice and the piano playing just for myself. I was doing it for my grandmother and my mother, and although I'm young, looking forward to learning as much as I can to be able to be a teacher for my future children. Those are things that I often visualize to really motivate myself to get through the hard work and the toil of doing piano practice day in and day out. And along with that is getting it into the calendar. So this is a really, really powerful habit that Brendan instills, is if it's not on the calendar, then it's not going to get done. So in the PDF, I have a link that links directly to Google Calendar, and so I've committed to practicing from 9 to 9:50, and if you just click that link, you can practice along with me. And this will get you in this habit, this routine, and it eventually becomes a non-negotiable it becomes a non-negotiable activity that you do. It's just a part of your routine, and you don't even think about walking over to the piano because you're just so used to being in that time, being at the piano at that specific time. So I would highly recommend it. really helps with the social support. So in conclusion for that step, really get into your calendar and think about somebody that can benefit. Maybe it's you. Maybe you can visualize a concert that you're about to prepare for, or somebody like your wife or your child, to make them joyous, happy, enjoy the experience of playing music in the house. So the second tip that I think is really, really powerful, and I wouldn't say this is a habit, but just a mindset inner game thing, is you really have to understand that piano is it's a long-term relationship, and that's what you're entering into by studying piano. I mean, everyone hears about these people, these kids who start playing piano at the age of 3 or 5, and they're spending hours and hours and hours, and then when they get to adulthood, they appear like they're geniuses or masters, but it's really because they've been working so hard day in and day out and just having faith in the process. So what I'd encourage you as you're maybe beginning your journey or you've been in this for a while is really just remember the relationship graph that's in the PDF. It kind of goes up, and then it goes back down, and then it goes back up, and then it plateaus, then it goes back up, and there's this linear trend that's going upwards, but it's not, there's lots of little hiccups and stops along the way, and so just knowing that can really give you a peace of mind that you're not alone and there's nothing wrong with you. It's just like how the process is. Learning piano, sometimes there's going to be those joyous experiences where you love it and everything's great, and then there's going to be times when other things pop into your life and you feel like you're not really getting better and it's hard work and maybe you're a little tired, and you're not seeing progress, and then maybe there's some times where you think that you're not getting better, you're actually getting worse. That's what we call the valleys in Simply Music. And really just have faith that any musician that accomplished really like anything great had to work their butt off to get there, had to spend 10,000 hours. If you've read Malcolm Gladwell Outliers book, he references a study where they looked at college age violinists who were in conservatory, and all of them on average had spent about 10,000 hours of dedicated practice. So you really, really have to have the long-term game, and that goes back to our habit 1 or our tip 1, having that routine of practicing day in and day out. It'll really reinforce that long-term relationship with piano. So the third tip that I really want to emphasize is the need to develop a social support system around your music. So, and this is especially true for piano, which I think is a really, really solitary instrument. And just as a musician in general, you're going to have these, you're going to be woodshedding, as they call it, where you're practicing all alone, and you really are just trying to perfect your craft as much as possible. And so it can really be easy to get into this hermitage lifestyle where you're not interacting with anybody. But I would dare say that it's absolutely essential to any person's progress as a musician. And so the 3 things that I really wanted to highlight within this, and I'm following along in the PDF if you haven't already noticed that, is the 3 things are finding inspiration, getting perspective, and accountability from your social group. So as far as inspiration, this is you finding somebody who inspires you with the way they're playing, the way they're expressing themselves through music. For me, I love listening to Kyle Landry on YouTube. He's one of my favorite pianists, and anytime that I'm in a valley and I feel like I'm getting worse at playing piano, or I feel like I'm never going to reach the level that I want to, I turn him on, and he fills me with this like joyous experience and motivates me, and to the point where I'm like, yeah, I want that. I want to be like that, and it reminds me why I need to work hard. So one action step for you is to really think about maybe one artist that you can turn to that without fail puts that smile in on your face and helps you tap into your own heart and into your inspiration. That's absolutely essential. And then finding maybe 3 songs of theirs that you can just routinely go to and listen to on repeat, just to remind yourself, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing this is why I'm working hard. Then the second thing about perspective. So I think it's really funny. I was really getting into studying music probably, later in life. I was starting to practice 4 or 5 hours several years ago at the age of 22, and I felt like a lack of time. I felt like I started late. And so almost every single week I would be chatting with my teacher about how slow I feel like I'm going, and I feel like I'm not progressing as fast as I want to, and I want to be better right now. And every single week he would say, well, look how far you've come. You've only been practicing, or you've only been playing like 6 months really formally, and look, you've been playing some pieces that are really awesome, and so celebrate that fact. And so I can't be more grateful for somebody who is further along in the path of playing music to offer me that perspective of, oh yeah, I really haven't been doing this that long, and there's plenty of time in the future, and to be patient and to be a little bit loving towards yourself rather than getting down on yourself that you're not as good as you want to be. One other aspect of perspective is finding a group or a couple friends that are also in the pursuit of music or progressive mastery, because that's what piano is. It's a long-term relationship of progressive mastery. And so I joined a couple of years ago to the Bay Area Piano Enthusiasts, and some of these players are amazing. They're intimidated, and I'm this small fish in a big pond rather than the big fish in the small pond where I was coming from. And so I'd go each month and perform, and I'd talk to these people who have been playing for years and years and years, and they are objectively, they're more technically skilled than I am, but they remind me that they worked really hard to get there, and it took a lot of time. So having that group, finding somebody on meetup.com, finding a group on Meetup that offers performance opportunities, offers friendships in your shared discipline, I think is invaluable, because it connects you with these people of different areas along the path. Maybe there's some beginners that join and you're able to be their mentor, but then there's people who are really advanced who are able to be your mentor and just give you that perspective that you have to be patient. So really developing that social support system. And then finally is accountability, and this kind of falls into having a teacher, having a friend who's gonna keep you accountable. I found that when I would sign up for recitals a month in advance, or performing a piece a month in advance, that made me accountable to practice every single day, have that long-term relationship, consistent effort. And so the more that you can create this social obligation and commitment to your craft, the more you're going to stick with it, the more that you're going to work hard and work passionately, even though it is difficult, it's mentally strenuous, you're going to fail a lot. All those things I think are absolutely important. Alrighty, so we are 60% of the way through, and the fourth one is you really have to get a good instrument, the best instrument that you can possibly afford. So as you can see here, it's a Roland FP7, and this is a pretty decent digital piano. I recently had to sell my my grand piano, or my baby grand, to be able to move down here to Orange County, and so I'm really missing that piano. That was my darling. I loved the feeling of it. I loved the sound, and so right now this is doing just fine. It's just not the same. The sound doesn't come to you the same way. So as I say in the PDF, a good thing to look for is a digital keyboard that has weighted keys or graded hammer action, and something that just doesn't sound like a toy. Because if your instrument is not inspiring to listen to, or even it sounds like painful to listen to, then you're much less likely to get to the piano and get to practice and associate it with pleasure. Now the mid-level is what's better is having an upright piano that has those a physical action where you're moving the hammers. It's like the hammer mechanics of the piano. When you push down the key, the hammer rises, and so you're lifting up some amount of weight. And a digital keyboard just isn't super great at creating that in a synthetic version. And so an upright will be even better than that. And then finally, the best version or the best option is to get a grand piano. And personally, I think that Yamaha and Steinway are absolutely the best brands. If you buy one, most likely you're going to be able to sell it for the same exact price, assuming you don't do anything to mess it up. The value is always there. Even their digital keyboards are really great, Yamaha. Their uprights are really good. But the grand piano, it really allows a pianist to develop their hand in the most natural way. The hammers, when you hit the key, the hammer goes up gravity, whereas on an upright, the physics of it is it doesn't feel as natural. The hammers are moving left to right and not using gravity. And so without getting too technical, a grand piano is going to feel the most natural. It'll allow you to play faster than on any other keyboard, with more grace, really. So if that's an option, really go for it. Some things that to highlight is really think about, like, what is your budget for a piano? Give a range. And then the second thing that I've often heard is multiply that range by 1.1 or 10% more than you feel comfortable with, because you really, really want to have a great instrument that you're inspired by. So as best as you can, as much as you can afford, without causing any undue stress, I'd say getting a quality instrument is going to really, really pay dividends in the long run. So the fifth and final tip that I have for you guys is you must have targeted practice sessions. You have to be intentional about what it is that you want to accomplish in your practice. And notice I'm saying practice over and over again. That's different than performance. So when you're practicing, you're really attempting to get better. And so I think it's really important to separate practice from performance. It's okay to perform, but I think a lot of people, when they say that they're practicing, they're really just performing the things that they're already really good at. And while that feels good and it's easier, the hard work will pay dividends, and you will actually get better when you're working on the stuff that you suck at, and that just needs effort. Something that I'm really excited about, I have a friend named Mark Gelfo, and he has a company called Music Star Games, and they've developed a couple different games, but one app that I think is great on iOS, on the App Store, on the iTunes App Store, it's called Practice Now, and there's a free version, so you can go download it, and basically this will help you structure your practice. You'll type in your song and the goals that you're having with it, and it'll remind you as you're practicing to stay on target with what you were doing. Some other techniques that I've used to have more targeted practice and more intentional practices when I first sit down at the keyboard, this is from Brennan Burchard, is I'll close my eyes and I'll ask, like, what really needs to happen right now? What do I really need to practice? What do I feel uncomfortable about doing? What am I avoiding? I think if we could all ask ourselves, not just piano, but in general, what am I avoiding more often? You'll finally get to the work and the effort that you should really be putting in, rather than doing the stuff that is maybe not very important and mundane. So being targeted with your practice and being intentional, I think, will allow you to progress. And when you progress, you're motivated, you're hungry, you want more, you want to get better and better and better and better. And so we all want this feeling that we are in motion somehow. And if we're not moving, it feels kind of uncomfortable, or if we're regressing, I don't think that ever feels particularly great. And so, especially in piano, we just want to keep exploring new ideas, feeling like we are getting more competence. And so I'm just going to recap all of the 5 habits that we've been working on, or 5 tips. The first one, raise necessity of your practice, get it into your calendar. The second one, just understand that when you enter into playing piano, it's a long-term relationship, and plan accordingly, and just have patience with yourself. The third is cultivate a social support system. Find friends, find a group, join a meetup group that will keep you accountable, inspired, and offer you perspective. Fourth, purchase the best quality instrument that you possibly can. And then fifth, create a practice action plan where you are being intentional about your practice. So again, my name's Eric Rinehart at ericRinehartpiano.com. That's ERICRINEHART piano.com. If you do ericRinehartpiano.com/5tipspiano, you can download the PDF with the action steps. Again, I want to thank Brendan Bouchard from Experts Academy for encouraging me to produce this video. Leave a comment if you're finding any benefit of some sort from this, and any questions are more than welcome, either in the description or either in the comments, or email me directly at ericRinehartpiano.com, ericRinehartpiano@gmail.com. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Hope you are inspired to go commit to your piano practice. Take care. Bye-bye.